I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
And it's one of those things. Oh, here's really where it comes down to, though, is this is something that I do want to discuss because it came up recently on another podcast that I was listening to, where I personally felt that they missed the whole point. And it's official. This is part one. We're going to be doing the rest of this next weekend when you guys have a chance to respond. Because really a lot of what I do know even in my original notes, a lot of what I had to say really was a back and forth discussion. But the question is, what is horror? They were coming up with these comic book situations and comic book characters. Who do you find, to be the scariest? And, they're mentioning Loki or Magneto or what. And yes, you're right. If he was standing right in front of me, and the sheer magnitude of power, especially if he's opposing me, like I'm going to level your neighborhood and all, that would be scary. But it's scary in the same way as a flood or a tornado, which are scary things, but you don't think of those as scary movies or a scary book, or you think of something more along the lines of terror, something that touches a certain primal part of you and raises your hackles, even without it being a case of like I said, a tornado, which it's an act of nature, or war, which is horrible, but there's something personally horrible, in my opinion, in a genuine horror story or scary movie or scary whatever. And I'm kind of curious what other people think on this. What do you think defines a scary movie, a horror movie? Certain thrillers like Silence of the Lambs is a weird movie in a way because it's a thriller. Is it a horror movie? It does have that quality about it that kind of has a certain personal primal reaction of discomfort, disquiet. But at the same time, it's not the same as Friday the 13th. Then again, is Friday the 13th a horror movie? Or does a horror movie actually have to have something a little bit more inexplicable, which Jason eventually becomes? But does it need to have something more like vampires or zombies or something along those lines? An enchanted, haunted, evil Betamax tape. What is horror to everybody? And does horror lend itself to everything? Comic books, it's hard for me to think of a genuine horror situation in comic books. We have The Walking Dead, which is categorized as a horror comic book. It's categorized as a horror TV show. I don't think it is. It's more of a disaster show. It's more about the people living with a disaster, and that disaster happened to be The Walking Dead. But it could have easily just been bubonic plague or earthquakes or whatever. It's their survival story. And what are they willing to do to survive? So it doesn't feel like a horror movie to me. It doesn't feel like a horror story. And I'm not sure that outside of anthologies that comics can really do horror. I'm fairly convinced that TV can't. outside of, again, anthologies or single story situations. BBC does really nice horror on TV, but that's because they'll take a horror story and spread it into 6 to 8 episodes, and then it's done. It doesn't come back next year. If it does come back next year, it's a completely different story. Completely different characters. There's no sense of continuity along those lines. And I think that's the key to why it doesn't work with comic books. It won't work with TV. Is there has to be a genuine sense of danger and loss. And if you took a regular TV show such as NYPD Blue and you actually on a weekly basis had the serious chance of these people being in genuine danger, genuinely able to lose everything they have, including their lives, or you wouldn't watch it. Because there's nothing to watch the second season. You'd watch it for a season to see what happens. But if you had a chance to get vested in this for more than one season, you would stop watching it. Because after 2 seasons, and then at the end of the second season, your favorite character's killed off, you'd be upset. Or at least the networks would be afraid of that being the response. Walking Dead is an interesting exception to this. They have killed off a couple successful characters, but at the same time, every season, everybody's complaining about the storyline. And yeah, you can complain about the plot all you want. There's a little part of me that does have a suspicion that part of it is they're actually complaining about the loss of how their characters, or the loss of what their characters have, that continuing loss. So I don't know. I personally don't think American Horror Story, you can claim that that's a series. It was 2 different stories. Each year it's been a different story. So it was able to do its whole cycle of loss and endangerment, and then still just go on next season because it just started from scratch. Nobody lost anything from at the beginning of the next season. They were all starting from square one. That's why anthologies work, because every episode's a brand new story. Friday the 13th kind of worked for a long time, but it really was at its heart an anthology that just happened to have the Scooby-Doo kids tracking down haunted items. Poltergeist, I've heard that it went on for a while. I don't know what the format was for Poltergeist. So that one, someone help me on that one. I don't know if Poltergeist really qualifies as a rare exception as a long-running horror movie or horror TV show that wasn't an anthology or a modified anthology like Friday the 13th. I don't know. American Gothic, one of my favorites, even though the first episode is a horrible info dump, but that was going to be an ongoing series, which fortunately got canceled, and they were allowed to go in and finish out their story for the season, and it made a good, complete story that I don't really think they could have gone anywhere for the next season. I think they would have been stuck. So while I love that show and I regretted it being canceled, it probably did it some favors being canceled. So that's the discussion questions for the week. Can horror successfully adapt to any medium, or are there certain ones that don't? TV, does it work on TV? Because I profess that it doesn't. As a long-term storyline. As individual stories, yes. But as a long-term, ongoing storyline, I don't think it works. I don't think it works in comic books for the same way. But give me your input on this one, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need, and like I said, I don't know anything about Poltergeist, the Legacy. So if anyone can tell me how that worked, Thanks. And overall, really, what defines horror for you, or a scary movie? And if you say a Wayans Brothers, I will poke you in the eye, even if it means I have to drive across country to do it. Just what is it that is horror? Because, like I said, when they were discussing, oh my god, that would the scariest character in comic books would be Lex Luthor, because and I'm going, no, he's not scary in the sense of like, it was the Halloween episode, and he's not scary in the sense of like, I want to dress up as him on Halloween and scare people. There's none of that primal scariness to him. So, I can revive a little bit of my notes, because part of my notes actually are on my computer. I know that some of you are aware of this. I used to write for a magazine called In Touch. It's on hiatus. I don't know if it's coming back from hiatus or not. I keep hoping. But hiatus is always a dangerous word. And we've been sitting here in that dangerous world of hiatus for quite a while. But one of the first articles I wrote for them, because I had a monthly article with them, basically about geek stuff. That's actually where the title of this podcast came from. More Geek Than Gay. That was from that. And the one of the ones I talked about was gay elements in horror movies. And I kind of defined there being pretty much just three main things. There's the literally will suck anything vampires, so they're kind of omnisexual, lesbian witches, and then trannies that kill. I wanted to call my article TV Kills, and I think I actually did, but my editor actually thought better of it, and she was probably right, but I still liked the name TV Kills. I enjoy a fun tranny killer movie, but there is a lot of people have issues with it. I know that there are people in the community who find them highly offensive, and I get it. I get why. As an example, Psycho. Psycho is an example. You have Norman Bates, who dresses up as his mother and kills people, and his sickness. See, transsexuals are basically people who feel, especially in that role, okay, for whatever reason, they either feel they need to dress in a mode contrary to their gender, or they feel that maybe they need to be contrary to their own gender. But it's an internal feeling. It's an actual identifier. It's an inherent identity. It's not a sickness. It's not an illness. It's not like depression or anything like that. It is who they are, a woman trapped in a man's body. So in the movies, though, such as Psycho, you have Norman Bates, who actually, his transvestitism is a symptom of his illness. And that's pretty much how they're always portrayed in movies, is that their transvestitism or transsexualism is a symptom of the illness that they have, and therefore they're sick. And that is arguably very offensive. I'm virtually impossible to offend along these lines. I actually watched a Serbian film and watch it all the way through. And if you wonder what that is, just look it up on Wikipedia, and about halfway through, you'll wonder how anyone could have sat through that movie. So I'm pretty difficult to offend. I get what they're doing. I get it. A transvestite character helps put the audience a little ill at ease. So I get that also. But whether it makes it right or not is another story. Can you is it right to use that as an excuse to scare people? The fact that you're able to, like, ooh, I can find someone who has Down syndrome, and because of the fact that they visually look different than the general population, they could help make my audience more uncomfortable when they watch them. Is that right to do? See, suddenly that feels a little squicky, doesn't it? I have someone, just things like that. So is it, because I was going off of, and then I was going on personal individuals that would be an issue, but is it right to do it, to use that as an excuse to make your audience uncomfortable because the audience is being uncomfortable because it's just different than them? Or here's another one. At one time, you could have easily said, I'm going to put a black black person in here because my general viewing audience is going to be white, and seeing a black person doing XYZ thing will be odd to them and make them possibly feel a little uncomfortable, and therefore make it even scarier when he becomes a murderer. We're back to it being a little squicky. Like I said, I enjoy a good transvestite killer, but the motives behind it are questionable.
While walking through the woods and not far from town, I got real shook, I heard the strangest sound. I saw the purple people eater, and to my surprise, the witch doctor sitting by his side. The witch doctor had a little guitar in his hand, and they were popping and a-rocking with a two-piece band. Purple was a-blowing like a people eater should. Witch doctor picked like Johnny Be Good. They went Oh, Doc, I got trouble, that's what he said. Girls keep a-laughing about the horn in my head. The witch doctor smiled, and I heard him say, yeah, man, you're ugly, but you sure can play. There in the moonlight, it seemed so strange as they blowed a course of home on a rain. They were coming on strong like rock and roll stars. Played the sweetest music of the side of Mars. They went up. These cats from outer space were giving their all, and I could tell the way they rocked that they were having a ball. They were coming on strong, I was clapping my hands, stopping long enough to say, "Crazy man!" So at twilight time, when the sun goes down, back in the woods on the edge of town, people all together from miles around to hear Doc and old Purple play the crazy sound. They go, oh yeah.
Howdy. Okay. Couple little ads right here at the end. I thank you all for sticking around today. This has been a weird episode. I really wish that after I figured out that I forgot my notes, that I had come up with the idea earlier, with this being more of a presenting ideas and hoping for feedback, so that we can make this more of a two-parter episode between this one and next week. But that didn't happen. I apologize for the chaotic ramblings that happened, but hopefully it was still at least reasonably enjoyable. That song that you just heard closing everything out, Big Bopper. Yeah. Witch Doctor meets the Purple People Eater, as if that wasn't horribly obvious. Just tossing that out there because I know that not a lot of people have heard that. I want to take a quick closing moment to introduce everybody to our unofficial mascot, Lil Starro the Conqueror. He's here to conquer you with cuddles. So you gotta love him. And even when we get an official mascot, he may still be lurking around somewhere on our faces. Because that's what Starro does. He sucks onto your face and makes you his slave. Thank thank you all for going with me down this road. The podcast has been going very well. Thank you for dealing with this being my learning experience. I know that for a lot of you, there are moments when you're like sitting there going, what the hell did he just do? Realize I'm learning every bit of this entirely pretty much on my own. I'm working with just me, my computer, whatever free software I can find, and my microphone. Everything is just a learning experience as I work my way through it, and you get to watch how this is progressing. If you have any questions on that, feel free to ask. There's already been some little lessons that I've learned here and there. I'm kind of hoping that I get some of this and that I'm getting it good here. I really do hope to, in the next month or so, get this to the point where I could get it onto iTunes. But I wanna have a better feel first and everything. This one was a little rough. So next week we're gonna do like the second part of this week, and then in 2 weeks back to the long format again, which this one was supposed to be. And in honor of February being Black History Month, I want to do Black Geekdom. David, I'm looking at you. You know who you are. I have ideas here. I've already asked Patrick of Scream Queens for his recommendations for black horror movies, of which there's not a lot of good ones. I also have an idea for gonna return to the idea of comic books. Sorry, Michelle, I know it's not your entire cup of tea there, but hopefully you'll stick around with this one because I want to talk about actually one of my favorite comic book creators, actually responsible for creating or co-responsible for creating an entire universe of characters that became very popular, and even one got his own TV show, Static Shock. So kind of want to address that idea, and just a couple other little ideas here and there about African Americanism in genre fiction or whatever you want to call it. Anybody have ideas out there? Hit it to me. Like I said, we're gonna like kind of address you guys next episode. And then in 2 weeks, that's when we're going to be doing the Black History Month honors blacks in the genre, sci-fi, comic books, horror, or something. Then don't forget weekend of, I believe it's the second week, so not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after that, at the Coliseum here in Phoenix, the VSNA book sale, used book sale. It's huge. You'll be able to get some great deals there, and it goes to a good cause. It goes to a collection of good causes, actually. I believe Toby House is one of them. I think Valley Big Brothers and Big Sisters is another one. There's a couple different services, different charities that the proceeds go to. Give a shout out to Mike Banks at Samurai Comics. Stop by there if you can. If you're looking for any good comics or other stuff, they have more than just comics there. Also, if you're looking for Mexican food, Bitsy Mama's over in Glendale. They'll hook you up. Hope to see you guys next week. Like I said, I thank you all. And hit me up. That's basically it. Hit me up, baby. And maybe next week I will spring out with a new theme song. I've been working on ideas for like new theme for this show because the one I have sucks. I know it does. Been waiting for someone to guess the main tune and no one has quite yet. Michelle's been the closest. But working on getting the idea for a main theme. Although if anybody wants to generate one on their own and submit it, I love that idea. Oh, and before I forget, I want to give a quick thank you to Scott the Satyr at Satosphere Podcast, because he actually posted a link to this podcast on his website. If you get a chance to listen to him, very fun. Basically, just a horny old gay, not old, horny gay guy and his sidekick Cindy, talking about just things that happen during the week. He does theater, so you get some of his theater experiences. He talks about the TV shows he likes. He enjoys doing gaming. So, and all in all, just very entertaining. Every week there's a mystery musical song, and you can call in and try to guess the mystery musical. I've actually known it twice now. Well, actually, I knew one, and the other one I cheated and looked it up because I thought I knew it, and then I was wrong, and then I thought I knew it again, and I realized no, I was wrong, and then I thought I knew it a third time, and I was wrong, and then I just went, screw this, I'm going to look it up. But thank you, Scott. Any of you guys out there listening who came here via Scott, thank you, thank you, thank you. Bear with me. You are watching me from the ground up, just learning what I'm doing here with absolutely nothing but the skin of my teeth. Ooh, teeth aren't supposed to have skin. There's something wrong there. Well, while I figure that out, have a good night. See you next week.